All right, well, let's go ahead and get started. Might as well be on time. What I want to talk about today is your marketing and sales system. One of the things that I became aware of, my background, my career was in corporate America, and I worked in marketing at Hewlett Packard, at HP. And when you work at a large corporate company, you get a different perspective because there's so many resources that, there's like, we had 125 people in our marketing department, and that was just for our product line of color printers and plotters. So, when you did something in marketing, you were very laser focused on a specific part of marketing. I was fortunate enough to move around a lot in that marketing department and get exposed to all the different elements of what goes into marketing. And it was very interesting when I left corporate America and joined the chamber and started meeting a lot of small business owners. I realized that their perspective on what marketing is very different, and they really think of it in terms of sales, right? The number of companies that I met that, even 15, 20, 40, 50 people, they have nobody in marketing, and they got a bunch of salespeople, and they're expecting salespeople to do marketing. And they're very different skill sets, but they're very synergistic if they're coordinated correctly. So what I thought to set the stage for the year is to kind of talk about, the marketing and sales system, what goes into developing your marketing strategy. Then there are so many lead generation options. How do you pick, what lead generation tactics you want to use that will be best for your business? And then how do you go about building your sales process and your scripts? So that's what we'll be talking about today. So every business has three core functions: lead generation, lead conversion, and lead fulfillment. All right. And so lead generation is really, sometimes it's called marketing, sometimes it's called business development. It's really about generating leads, converting those leads into orders is sales, and then fulfilling those leads is operations. A great book, if you haven't read it, is called The E-Myth Revisited by Michael Gerber. E-Myth stands for entrepreneurial myth, not electronic myth. And he talks about this difference. And when you build a business, you start with from the bottom up. You start with lead fulfillment. So, if you can't fulfill an order, if you don't know how you're going to do that, then don't get an order. Figure out how you're going to fulfill it first. And then you can start on sales. And then when you get that refined, then you can start working on lead generation. So you really build your skill set bottoms up. And a lot of small business owners start with, hey, I'm good at this. I can do this. One of my very first clients was a tree service company. Small company, only had 3 employees, but he had been working as a field supervisor for a very large field tree service company, and said, I can do better than this on my own. So he knew about cutting trees and trimming trees. He was a certified arborist and all that stuff, but he didn't know anything about sales or marketing. So, and that's often a common way that entrepreneurs start their business is there's something that they know they're good at. And so they start with operations, and then they have to build the other two functions. So I'm going to present to you a chart. Kathy has this chart. I sent her a PDF version, so she will send that to all of you so you can take your notes. But you know, what I noticed in talking to people is that a lot of small businesses, they start spending money in the bottom right. They're like, okay, I know I need to generate some leads. So they pick some bucket down here at the bottom right and start putting money into it to see whether it's going to generate the leads and the sales that they want. The problem with that is it's hit or miss. I was shocked one time. I met an attorney at the chamber, and I went to his office and I said, well, how can I help you? And he said, well, I spent $100,000 last year on direct mail. And I thought to myself, wow, $100,000 on direct mail. So the first question of any marketing tactic is, okay, did it work, right? What was your ROI? How many leads did you get? How many sales did you get? And he went, 0. I got 0. And I said, okay. And unfortunately, a lot of business owners have that same thing. They're approached by a salesperson who says, you should do PR because that's what I do. I do PR, so you need it. Or I do websites, so you need it. Or I do SEO, so you need it. Or I do Google ads, so that's what you need. So you should know, the business owner needs to know in advance what they need before they go seeking the expert. So how do you figure that out? So these 5 boxes in the upper left are the strategy portion of marketing. So I'm going to go through these boxes one by one. Let me get my time clock open in front of me so I don't go too long here. Okay. So the first one is really, you know, what are your objectives? You know, long term, what are you trying to do, and what is your purpose and your values? What's your short-term sales goals, and also what is your exit strategy at the end of your run here? What are you trying to do? Are you trying to build a business you can sell? Are you trying to build a business you can pass on to your children? Are you trying to build a business that will just generate enough income for you so that you can retire and shut it down? All those things are important. They're important not only from setting your own financial and organizational goals, but also for picking your business name. So, you know, if your long-term exit strategy is to sell your business, then calling your business Don Sando Consulting is not going to facilitate that, right? So, so that's the first step. I'm going to go through these 5 steps, and what I will tell you at the end is that you really need a partner or somebody to do this with, right? You can't just do this on your own without any feedback, because you will make a lot of assumptions that may or may not be accurate. So get in a mastermind group, get a consultant, do something that you can bounce these ideas off of. The Spark group that the Chamber launched last year was really designed for exactly that purpose. The second aspect is to then profile your target customers, right? who are they and how do you describe them? All right. And I'll use Anita as an example. You know, she might choose to sell candy to businesses. You know, that might be her total focus. Or Jennifer with Box Connect, same thing. Maybe she's focusing primarily on businesses, or maybe she's focusing on individuals, or maybe both, right? So who are your target customers, because your marketing and your sales process have to be designed for them. And you can have more than one, but you'll probably have different, so you'll have different segments of customers, right? So then how many do you need? So the tree service company that I work with, when I started working with him, his entire customer base was residential, you know, residential customers cutting trees in people's residences. Well, you know, the problem with that is that, you know, people don't need their trees trimmed, but, you know, once a year or once every 3 years, depending on their budget, right? So it's a very up and down business. And what he found was that, you know, when he worked really hard, he could keep his crew busy. And when he got tired of working really hard, then sales really dropped off. So we decided to have two segments and really focus on some commercial accounts, which is a whole different process. Once you have your customers, once you decided who they are, then the most important thing is the things at the bottom there, which is how do they buy what you sell, and why do they buy what you sell, right? So what is their buying criteria? You know, buying criterias are based on needs, pains, frustrations, and desires. It's almost always one of those four that's causing them to buy, all right? And, you know, it could be fears, right? So if you sell insurance, you're probably making a message about the fears of not having insurance. And then what is their buying process? So ask yourself, if somebody wants to buy what I'm selling, where are they going to go looking for it? And that's a very important question. You know, so if somebody, you know, and it's not just anybody, but it's your target customer. If your target customer, if a business owner wants to buy what you sell, where are they going to go looking? I have a lot of clients in the construction industry, right? Nobody, you know, and they build, you know, large commercial projects. So people are not going to go online, you know, contractors are not going to go online looking for someone to build a building, right? They're going to talk to somebody, say, hey, I saw a sign, you know, who do they know? Have you used that company? So they use, you know, so in the construction industry and commercial construction, I should say, you know, the key way the buying process really revolves around the industry associations. So you have to do your marketing in the industry associations, you know, and doing a lot of social media is most likely not going to generate the kind of business that you're looking for. So that's step number 2. Identifying your target customers, buying criteria, and how they buy, how they find what you do. And that feeds directly into which boxes in the bottom right you're going to put your money in. So if you're in the construction industry, you're going to put your money in Collateral. Maybe you're going to do some public speaking, right? In the industry associations, and you're going to have brochures and things to to hand out. Obviously, you're going to need a website. Everyone needs a website, but you're probably not going to get the return on investment from doing SEO that another business might. The next step is really analyzing the competition. And this really helps you refine your script. How do you position yourself? How are you different and better than your competitors? So, what I always tell people is assume that you are competing with somebody. Don't assume that, oh, gee, I just got a call. I'm the only one they're talking to. This is a slam dunk, right? Because every time you assume that, then you can't figure out why they didn't select you. And then you find out later they went with somebody else. Like, oh my God. So analyze the competition, know what their strengths and weaknesses are relative to meeting those customers' buying criteria. And then, and maybe you don't have to necessarily name your competitors by business name, but there's categories. Like I worked with a roofing company. Well, so there's mom and pop roofing companies, and there's Joe the roofer, drives around in his truck, right? So that's obviously that person is going to be very low cost, have no overhead. Maybe they just bring in people to work on the job. So how do you compete against low cost versus if you're working with some, nationally known roofing company, how you compete with them is going to be different. So, group your competitors by segment and honestly assess both their strengths and their weaknesses. One of the weaknesses I have seen in a lot of startups, especially when they have intellectual property or developing a new product, is you'll oftentimes hear them say, oh, we have no competitors. Nobody does what we do. Maybe nobody has a product that does exactly what they do, but people are solving that problem some way today. So assess and know what problem are you solving, and how are your potential customers getting that problem solved today? Once you've analyzed the competition and their strengths and weaknesses, then you do the same thing with your company. So you look at your own company from the same perspective. So here's my buyer's needs, pains, frustrations. Here's how they find what I do. What are my company's strengths and weaknesses at addressing those? And the more honest you can be, the better. I worked with a concrete company. There was a concrete subcontractor, and 80% of their business was with general contractors. So general contractors working on large projects would bring them in. So I asked him about, so we went through this process, and I said, okay, so who are your target customers? Well, they're general contractors. How do they find concrete subcontractors? Well, they go to industry association meetings and get referrals. Okay, what is their biggest frustration? And I was working with a team of about 12 of the managers from the company. And they said, and they universally said, oh, they are all frustrated with a concrete subcontractor's ability to adhere to schedule. So everybody always says price first. And then you say, okay, do you have to be the lowest price? No, you don't have to be the lowest, but you got to be, within 5 to 10% of the low bidder, but you have to be able to justify your value and why you cost more. So I asked him, I said, okay, any of your competitors, are there any competitors, how are they at schedule flexibility, right? And they unanimously said, oh, they all suck. So I'm cracking up. So we go through the company SWOT and I say, okay, so you've said the biggest frustration is schedule flexibility. How are you guys at schedule flexibility? And they said, oh, we suck. Yeah. Okay. So there's an industry. So then I said, well, why does everybody suck? Is it that hard to do? Is it impossible? And they were like, no, it's just, we have Kevin. And Kevin's job is to plan the schedule for the next project. But Kevin spends all his time fighting fires on the existing project. And so when we start the next project, we have no plan. So we could solve that by just stop Kevin doing firefighting on existing projects and have him plan the next one. And then the firefighting need would go away. I'm like, okay. So it was like a big light bulb went on for them when they were able to truly understand how to create a competitive advantage. From doing the company SWOT, then you pull it all together into your strategy. So what is my strategy? What is my desired market position? What's my unique selling proposition? What are my key differentiators? What's going to set me apart from my competitors? And they might, your key differentiators might be different. If you're a mid-size roofing company competing with Joe the roofer, you're going to have one set of differentiators. Competing with, Nationwide Roofing, you're going to have another set of differentiators. So you need to know what those are, be able to articulate them, and especially in a sales situation. When you have completed these 5 steps, then you've developed, you have the basics for your marketing strategy. And now you're ready to meet with somebody that does branding and does logos and creates your company image and your slogans and all that stuff. You don't want me creating your logo. It's going to look like a 6th grader did it, unless it's my granddaughter who does better than me. So you don't want somebody like me doing your branding or your website. You want somebody that's skilled in that, Nyla or somebody that's going to give you a great looking logo that's going to be consistent with, your strategy, what your desired market position is. Now, if you look at my logo, for example, it's very corporate, it's designed to be corporate because my target customers are businesses with 20 or more employees. So I want something that's going to appeal to them. I was in a group with a woman, and she had a interior design company, and she had an art background, right? So she developed this most elaborate artistic logo for herself. I'm an artist, I can do a logo. She does a logo. She goes, what do you think? And I go, doesn't matter what I think. I'm not your target prospect. What does your target prospect think? I said, get, 10 of your target prospects and ask them to rate this logo and give them a few options. Give them this one and 2 others and have them pick. She was heartbroken, but her logo was the least appealing to her target prospect, even though it was her love. And it got her to throw it away and pick one that appealed to her target prospect. So you want to know this stuff and how you're going to differentiate yourself when you meet with your, the bottom right here is your lead generating machine. So if you're going to do podcasts and public speaking, all right, you know who you want your podcast published where and broadcast where your target customers are listening. If you're doing advertising, if that determines to be one of the key tactics that you need to use, then you need to put the ads where your target prospects are going to be looking. Same with social media, SEO, all of these other things. Okay, so I have these color-coded skill sets. All right, so the strategic part is up here in the blue. Then in the bottom right, you've got your marketing tactics that support your strategy, and then you move to the bottom left, which is the lead conversion and lead fulfillment. So lead conversion is sales. So what is the sales process? And how are these leads handled? I remember I worked once with a marketing agency, and they did a campaign for a company that was selling timeshare units in Mexico on the Gulf Coast. And so they hired this agency to develop a campaign to generate leads. The owner of the agency came to me and said, okay, we have tripled the number of leads that they're getting, but their sales have not increased. What is going on? So you get inside and you discover, well, they didn't increase the number of salespeople to handle the number of leads that they were getting. And so 2/3 of the leads were just falling on the floor and not getting addressed. What a waste. So what did the owner do? They fired the marketing agency. Wrong solution. All right. But no sense in spending money if you're not going to get any ROI out of it. He could have done something different and improved his sales organization, his lead conversion organization. But that's not what he chose to do. And then operations. So then how are you going to fulfill the lead? And like I said, most people start here. So, the problem oftentimes is letting go of this as you grow and building a structure where somebody else can do the fulfillment and it doesn't require you. All right. So if you're trying to, depending on what your long-term goals are, what size company you want to have, you eventually want to have perhaps somebody doing the operations for you. In the E-Myth Revisited, he talks about, and I do this in step 1 here is, so what is your 5 years from now, what is your company organization? What do you want it to look like? Now, today, so draw that organization. Now, today, it might be your name in every box, but, your plan is going to say, okay, when I get enough money, the first box I'm going to hire is this. I'm going to get somebody else to do this. I'm going to outsource bookkeeping. I'm going to outsource this. I'm going to, so that would be part of your plan is how are you going to get to your long-term organizational goal? Okay. I think, let me see, I got, so one of the things I wanted to talk a little bit about is the sales scripts, right? And so the point is here, this is all based on a book called Solution Selling by Michael Bosworth. and one of the, depending on what you're selling, I have found this kind of a statement to be very effective. I've been working with, other companies like you who tell me their biggest need, pain, frustration, desire is this, is anything similar to that in your business. So you get them talking about what is their pain, frustration, desire, need. And you want to start in a very open-ended, tell me about it. What causes it? You want to get your prospect talking about what their challenges are. And then you want to try to refine your understanding. So is it because this is, what? So drill down and then confirm that you understand. And you so in his book, he talks about going through these 9 steps, right? So first is diagnose the reasons, then explore the impact. Who else is impacted besides you? What else? Does this also cause this, that, or the other problem? From what I've heard, this is really the main problem. And then, visualize capabilities. What will it take to solve this? If you could do this, would it help? And if you had the ability, could you solve the problem on your own? Boy, I keep getting this person keep calling me, won't stop. All right, sorry about that. So, okay, let's turn it over to stop screen sharing. And hi, Teresa Barnes. Questions? Anybody have any questions? Tiffany.
So you'd mentioned in the beginning of the podcast about websites. I had initially used Facebook and had like my business website on there, and then I got hacked out of the Instagram, and so then I deleted Facebook and Instagram. And so what do you have to say about like the importance of a website for a business?
Well, I would talk to website companies specifically, but my opinion is that every business needs a website. Now the question is, what do you expect the website to do? Is it basically a brochure, that people come and say, oh yeah, they're a legitimate business. Here's the people, this is what they do, blah, blah. So it's basically an online brochure, or is it an e-commerce site where you are really expecting to generate sales, right? And have people order right on the site. So if that's the case, then you have to have a website designed for that purpose. So what's going to drive people to your website? Maybe the Facebook and Google ads drive people to your website, and then now your lead conversion process is your website. Depending on, so some businesses, the purpose of the website is to get, or the lead is to get them to call you, right? So nobody's going to buy my services from my website. Right? They're going to have a meeting. We're going to have to explore what's going on in their business. So, but Anita, maybe somebody heard about her candy, could go right to the website and say, damn, I'm just going to order this, this, and this and be done. Right. And so understanding the purpose, the purpose of your website and where it fits in your sales process would be the key.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else?
Don?
Yes, Nyla.
Thank you so much for that thorough presentation. For someone that's in marketing and graphic design, I actually learned a lot from you this morning. And it helped me to reset and kind of go back to actually my corporate days working in marketing for a large organization. And to remind me that I kind of need to go back to the basics on a lot of this stuff for a lot of my clients that have the smaller businesses, and that it really still applies. So I really appreciate how you broke it down. And I was literally printing out the charts and taking notes while you were talking. But what really made me, what really hit home was I did have a client last year that was doing exactly what you said. She was trying to sell something without being able to fulfill it. She was trying to create her branding and marketing, but had no idea how to fulfill. And I kind of struggled with that a little bit because I knew it was going to not end well, and it didn't. So having this chart, I'm going to actually use it as my Bible going forward for every client I work with, even if it's a one-person company. So,
nice. Have you read the E-Myth Revisited?
No, and I wrote down both books that you said. I'm like, I'm going to get those on Audible today.
Yeah. So you know, if I met with a small business owner, depending on where they were, a lot of times I would just give them the book and say, "Here, read this book," because what it does is it really creates a mindset for your overall operation, but you know, it doesn't tell you how to do it. Right? That's where I come in. Okay, read this. You're going to know what you want. Then call me and we'll do it. All right. As opposed to, oh, read this and now my business is fixed. No, that's the problem with books. Books are great for transmitting information, but you know, you have to apply that information, and typically you're going to need some guidance, you know, in doing that.
So true. Thank you. One quick thing I was also going to mention, Tiffany, you asked about the website, and I remember, I think you did absolutely the right thing by getting set up on Google with your website. They actually have this, a lot of people don't realize, this little hidden gem of having a website connected to your Google My Business account. And if you aren't ready to create a full-fledged website, it's the best thing to do because they are the #1 search engine. So if you have a little website with Google, you know, of course, they're going to prioritize you over a non-Google website. So I think that it's good for anyone to have it, even if it's an interim. So you already have that and you didn't realize it, I think.
Awesome. Thank you.
Anita.
Hi, I don't really have a question. I just wanted to thank you because this was perfect timing. And even if we kind of know where we're going and so on and so forth, I and I suppose all of us are doing our planning or have done planning for 2021. And it's so valuable to see again and to see it on your charts on exactly how to go with it. And I know that a lot of us do start at the top, but we should start with our product and fulfillment. And I can see why. For me, I tried to do everything at once, and that was pretty overwhelming too. But I just really appreciate you giving this presentation. And at this time, it was very, very, very valuable.
Thank you. So, you know, for the year, if you look at, so our plan for the speakers for the year is, so the first topics are going to be about planning. So today was about marketing and sales. Next month is about change management, you know, and marketing practices before and after COVID. And then we're going to move to operations, how to hire and scale your business, and also do exit planning for businesses. So knowing that up front is very helpful. All right, then we're going to get into accounting and operations, financial planning, bookkeeping and accounting, tax credits, insurance, outsourced operations. And then we're going to get into all the marketing. So we'll have a presentation on podcasting, advertising on LinkedIn and Facebook, Google SEO, PR, and social media. So that's kind of our agenda for the year. And we'll be, starting with fulfillment, so we'll be doing, the order is, the marketing is coming towards the end of the year. But we'll be hitting all those different boxes that are in the bottom right of the chart. Janny.
I just want to say how fabulous this was. And so even though I think it's so interesting, because sometimes I've heard you speak before and worked with this information, and yet every time I see it, I understand it better. But I really, really appreciate the way you laid it out. Just, all the specific details and blocks, and thinking about that order that maybe isn't intuitive, that tendency to jump in at the wrong end. I can see where that's not effective. And I think that you really led us through that journey really well. So thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I've met with a lot of marketing agencies because, one of the challenges that they have, and Nyla, I'm sure you can attest to this, is that people don't know who their target customer is, how to describe them. They haven't really thought through their competitive advantages, their competition. And so then it's really difficult to create the content for a website or anything when it's like, what do I say? It's like, and so unfortunately, a lot of times what they do is they just interview the business owner who shares his or her perspective, but it's not thorough enough. I love working with larger organizations because, if I, like, one of my favorite exercises, be in a team of 12 managers and ask them all to write down the top 3 reasons why their customers buy from them. And when you compare those lists, there's 12 totally different lists. They never agree. And so their marketing strategy is disjointed. They're arguing all the time. No, people buy for this reason. No, people buy for this reason, and so they have all these internal conflicts because they haven't thought through, what their real, market position is and what they want it to be. And I've seen a lot of people that will do a SWOT exercise, the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, and they'll start a session off with that. Oh, let's talk about your company. What are your strengths? Well, if you do that at the beginning without talking about where you want to go, what ends up is you talk about, all you end up with is fine tuning and tweaking. So the assumption, if you start with that, is, okay, we're just going to keep doing the same old thing. And if I would have started with that tree service guy and said, what are your strengths and weaknesses? He would say, well, orders are up and down, blah, blah, blah. And we'd be focused on how do we get more residential orders when, the real answer was, we got to get a whole new segment of customers. So we got to think, and then you assess yourself, well, okay, how, so he was a golfer. So he's like, I want to trim trees on golf courses. Those damn trees keep getting in my way anyway. Why don't I trim them? And I'm like, great. Okay, so what do you know about trimming trees on golf courses? Not a damn thing. All right, so who's going to buy from you? Nobody. All right, so we need to figure out how to position yourself, because they're getting their trees trimmed today from somebody. All right, so what are their frustrations with the people that are servicing them today? And do you have a solution to that? Can you do something better? He ended up with a brilliant differentiation strategy, and his business it tripled in the first 6 months and doubled again in the next 6 months. It went 6x in 12 months because he did his homework. I just told him what to do. He went and did it and said, okay, this is what that means. So let's go do this. And it was amazing. You know, and then all of his problems changed from getting orders to, I got to buy more equipment. I got to buy a new chipper. I got to buy this. I need to hire more people, you know. So his problems didn't go away. They just changed. Okay, well, we have run out of time. So I thank you all for your participation. I think Kathy sent everybody the chart, sounds like it. And if you want to talk anymore, feel free to reach out. I'd be happy to get together with anyone. And like I said, watch for the upcoming workshops. They will kind of build on this.